This is the Kingdom of Pod. Jeff Case here from Flower Mound, Texas. Today's issue, I want to talk about funding Boise State University, both the university and, of course, the athletic department. First, though, let me remind you, BetOnline is your number one source for all your sports betting this season. You'll get analysis of every play, prop, and point at one place at betonline.ag. You'll find the latest odds and contests, matchups, game trends, all at BetOnline. They have updated odds, everything from live games, playoffs for the NBA, right on through to the championship series. BetOnline is your sports betting headquarters. If it's played, you can bet on it at betonline.ag. Get over there today. Get to the website. Use your mobile device. You can sign up and get a 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. That's a heck of a deal. So be sure you use our promo code, though, BELIEVE. That's BLEAV to get your bonus. That's BELIEVE at betonline.ag, where the game starts. I haven't spoke to you for a little while with any news or information around Boise State. You know, spring ball is different. It's practice, and it's one-on-one. There's a lot of profiles and features type stuff. And, of course, there's a lot of conference news that eventually I hope to be able to get to. It's not necessarily all about Boise State, but in the meantime, I ran across this and put it out on some social media, and I've talked about it through the years about investing in Boise State University as a community and even as a state, which was what my thought as a FBS football school that has aspirations to become a Power Five, who can take motivation even from states like Wyoming, for example, Wisconsin, where you've got one focus for Division I FBS football, and the state pride is coming through that particular activity, in this case, sports. But when you look at the overall picture about Boise State's growth trajectory and the recent growth they've had in donors, you know, everything seems to be donors here and growth kind of going along. But at some point, you know, it's going to need a turbocharge and a boost. You do run through a lot of boosters. And I think when that happens, when you see some key people in the athletic department moving on, that'll be part of the reason. They'll have made the rounds. They know what they're faced with. They've tapped some of the shoulders that they can. And they will see that, okay, either I'm in here for another 5 years before this person comes around again, or I've got to move on to go to bigger, better, different things. I understand all that. Of course, here I am sitting in Flower Mound, Texas. So at what point, you know, beyond season ticket contributions or donations in general, will the citizens of Ada County, for example, step up and say, sure, Boise State University's educational mission, role in our economy, and entertainment and pride are critical to how I feel about living in this particular place, and participate in the funding of it through a countywide initiative like what's happening in Fresno. Now, this isn't meant to bring up that Fresno's better than Boise. That's all bullshit. Just don't buy into that part of. That's not why I'm making this case to belittle or make Boise feel bad or make Fresno look good. This is just, I think, a good idea that Fresno State University has gotten behind. It's called Measure E. It lost when it was on the ballot just about, I think, about a year ago. And they were trying to pass a pretty modest increase in taxes for their county to fund 2/3 of it, like I think it was $36 million a year. And 2/3 of it would have went to fund educational missions, 1/3 of it to expand the football stadium, for example. And that's it. So the measure was backed by one individual. It didn't pass. It lost by like 10%, like 52 to 47. And they've got a different approach now. They're trying to get 100 different people behind it. By the way, that one individual who tried to get that passed put $1.5 million of his own dollars into getting that done and narrowly lost. So they hope that by taking more time, trying to gather, I don't know, thousands of signatures and get it on the ballot for March of 24, that they'll close that 10% gap. Now, there's a lot to all of this. How can you get it done? What's the current climate in Boise like? What's it like in Fresno? I'll get to that in a second. If you've got trouble sleeping like I did, I want to tell you about full-spectrumhealth.com. If you're tired of focusing on how much you eat, or, you're losing weight and it's not going to last, because that's not necessarily the way long-lasting weight loss happens, maybe full-spectrum health is for you. You can learn how to cold plunge, eat at the correct times, don't eat at the correct times, like after dark, how to cold plunge. All of these things, including sleeping better without interruption, can come your way. So go to full-spectrumhealth.com. It's really a total lifestyle. You can get in shape, you can work out, there's plans, and you get a free consultation to figure out if it's for you. And it's by video. You don't have to go anywhere. Just pop on your computer, start talking to them and say, tell me more about this. Cave's told me, I'd like to know more. I want to sleep better. I want to have more energy. I'm tired of going on diets. Keto lifestyle diet sounds good to me. Not strict keto, but sort of motivated by keto. So I think all of this would work for you. Get a custom fitness workout program and more. It won't cost you more than a couple $100, which is nothing. And without an investment, you'll never get into it. So trust me. You can email me if you want any questions. Just go to full-spectrumhealth.com. All right, let me get back to this situation with Boise State getting involved and how it happened in Fresno. The university, Fresno State University of Fresno, could not get out and publicly support something like this because of the legalities and the public picture of all of it. But now they are involved to a degree that they're listening, they're supportive. They can't come out and be all over it because, of course, they are a nonprofit and they have all other kinds of optics to worry about. But they're now behind it. And imagine, I know California has tremendously different economics and, of course, higher taxes. I looked, and in the cities of Boise and Fresno, the Fresno County, the counties, Fresno County taxes is about over 9%. And right now in Ada County, it's about 6%. So that's lower than like 80% of everywhere in the U.S. that you enjoy right now in the Ada County, Boise area. That's a tremendous, opportunity. You've got a great lifestyle. And how about putting some of those resources towards Boise State so they can get closer to bringing themselves up to a competitive level with their salaries, with their research, with their facilities, bring in another couple thousand students. And, they were employing over 3,000 people. They're one of the top 5 employers in the area. They're critical, and they always have been. But the rate with which they're growing by donation and the growth of the school needs to accelerate if it's going to catch up and make a significant run. Now, from a sports perspective, yes. If a Power 5 conference is in your sights, they need to really go after it and get their budget up there and quit putting so much money on debt and all the other things it takes to build out facilities, build out that stadium, for example. That money could go elsewhere. There's a lot of things that could happen if everybody in the area were to get behind it. Why hasn't this happened? Why does it happen in Fresno? You'd have to ask the people who are in charge and demand that they consider this and ask them and support those who would and figure out if they don't, does that align with you? Does that align with what you think is important? If you look at the growth, every one of the major employers is completely reliant, for the most part, on Boise State producing these graduates. Take a Micron, engineering. It's a lot less expensive and a lot better for their long-term health to get people who've graduated from Boise State committed to the area are going to stay there for a while, rather than importing this talent from all over the world. So everybody wins. It costs you nothing, very, very, very little. And you could argue, yeah, that money should be going elsewhere. Well, then let them put together an effort. Let them worry about that. Let's worry about this. Well, what would you do with the money? Well, in Fresno, they're going to raise $36 million a year, $720 million total over a 20-year period. And they would like to, of course, renovate their stadium. Well, you could do that here. You've seen the plans to renovate Albertson Stadium. And by renovating the stadium, you're going to make more cash on it. You could pay off some debt. You could pay off the Blameyer football facility. I'm pretty sure they're still paying on the suite complex and the press box and all of that. So there are some things that can be done on that level. And I think that that would bring in more cash. If you want to get yourself into a Power 5 conference, this would help a lot. The budget of Boise State is just not competitive when you scratch it out against these Big 12 and Pac-12 schools. And some of them are sensitive to the fact that you're coming to them to try to fund your program on their back. And they'd like schools who have a much more robust budget to be able to build themselves up and then use the money that they gain from this new conference affiliation to take it to another level. But, right now, Boise State, I think, looks at Power 5 money as survival. I mean, if I were in the shoes of those out raising all that money, the TV money going up would make my life a hell of a lot easier. And that's just human nature. So they would love to see something like this happen. I don't know what the downside is of speaking out about it and saying, can't we do something in this city, this county to support this university, because everybody would get on board with that? Or you could argue, I think Tom or somebody may have pointed out to me that there was too many Vandals or Bengals in the area. Win them over. You got to start somewhere, sometime, someplace. If they live in that area, they're still benefiting from all the economic benefits that the university brings. And it's not all about sports. If you look at the Fresno Measure E ballot initiative, it's a 2/3 non-athletics enhancement fund. And there's a lot of stories that Boise State could tell about that. I know that's a lot of soapbox, but I'd just like to see an effort like this considered, discussed publicly. And if you feel this way, hold those accountable who don't. Ask them the questions. I can remember asking governors at Idaho about, how are you going to fund athletics? Would you consider more universities? And what you hear is, we don't have the money for that. Well, then what are the priorities for the money? And is that in alignment with what you want? And if it is, celebrate. It's great. If it's not, you got to do something about it. And at the trajectory that the athletic department is able to raise funds now, it's definitely better than it's ever been. It still has a long way to go. And the resources to get there will be even more expensive. They're going to need more people, and they're going to have to pay them better. And they're going to lose these great people that are here now as they go triple their salary somewhere else. That's just how everything works. So I hope somebody hears this, that considers it, and at least asks some questions about why this wouldn't work in Boise, Idaho. And remember that, in Ada County, it's a lot more democratic thinking than the rest of the state, which is much more Republican conservative thinking. So I think it has a chance. Hope you've enjoyed it. Pass it along. Give this to some people who'd like to consider it. Take a look at it yourself. Just search Measure E, Fresno, California, and you'll see all the details of how they're going to do it. I enjoyed at least bringing it up, and we'll see where it goes from here. Thanks for tuning in. Rate it, review it, pass it along. This is the Boise State Football Weekly podcast, and I'm sure I'll have some thoughts after the spring is complete, just coming up this weekend.